what we're doing at BZ Principles every first Friday of the month is we're trying to give you timely and timeless leadership topics so that we can engage in interaction and discussion. So this is not designed to be a class. It can't be. And I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be a discussion. So I've got some points that I've come up with, and I kind of want to give those to you. And then I want to have some time for some questions, some answers, and we'll just go from there. So first of all, I want to talk about the book a little bit. And what we're trying to do this year is effective people do the right things for the right reasons. So let that soak in a little bit. Effective people, so we're talking about the seven habits of a highly effective person. Effective people do the right thing at the right time. And they just really don't care sometimes about what other people think. They just do the right thing. And Dr. White has said before, do the right thing, let God figure everything else out. So number 2, effective people seek to live by the 1% rule. The 1% rule, which you've seen, that was even in The Power of Moments or Atomic Habits by James Clear. That rule is that, hey, I'm not going to be perfect today, but I'm going to get 1% better today. I'm going to iterate again and again. So if you're an engineer, you understand that. I'm iterating. I'm getting 1% better. I'm getting 1% better in coding. I'm getting 1% better in design. Same thing with artists. You're iterating. You're getting better as you go on. And habits are developed. It's hard to develop habits. The habit of getting up early, the habit of reading your Bible every day, the habit of being a good friend, the habit of driving under the speed limit or driving not 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. These habits are things that require work. So what are these 7 habits? We're always going to start these BZ principles just going over the basics. So number 1 is be proactive. We're going to talk about that today. Number 2 is begin with the end in mind. Number 3 is put first things first. 4 is think win-win. You know, if you think of The Office, it's win-win-win. Number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That statement has been said a lot. That is a Covey statement. Number 6 is synergize, using other people around you. And number 7, sharpen the saw. So when you think about this book, the way it is developed, if you look at the diagram, I forget exactly what page it's on, but it starts with dependence. That's the first thing at the bottom of that. Then it works its way to independence, then interdependence, and then continual growth is in the outside of the circle. That's the diagram that Covey gives on how to become an effective person. I'm going to take it and apply it a little bit to us. So I believe our dependence is our who and our why. So that's like Romans 12, 1 and 2. You know, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. It's your foundation, it's your anchor point. So your who and your why is your anchor point. So if you think of the hurricane that just went through Central Florida, those boats over in Tampa or whatever, they anchor themselves down on the coastline so that boat can stay secure. If their anchor point is not good, then when the winds blow, the ship moves. So the idea of that is, what is your anchor points? Number 2, you move yourself into independence, which is that Romans 12, 9 through 21, where Leslie was talking about these are the commands, the imperatives, the things that, hey, you're supposed to love one another with brotherly kindness, abhor what is evil, cling to what is good. It's what is needed and what's required. It's be courageous, live with conviction. And then from there, you've got your dependence, your independence. And sometimes with your independence, you think, I can do whatever I want. No. Freedom and liberty are 2 different things. Freedom is the ability that we have got a lot of, we can control what's in front of us. Liberty is the idea that, you know, it's like, hey, I'm allowed to do this, I'm allowed to do that. So it's important to understand that when we talk about independence, it's not that we're going to be a standalone person, it's just we are starting to become more secure. Then it gets to interdependent, which is your how, you're part of a community. That's Romans 12, 3 through 8, you know, the part about the body, there's many members, but we don't all have the same function. And then the last one is continual growth. So the way I look at it and the way I define Covey, and we're going to keep doing this every single time, is dependence is required for independence. So if you are not secure in who God created you to be, you will never be able to be independent and have your own original thoughts. Because your thoughts are always going to be based upon what other people think of you, right? Your independence equips you for interdependence. So the idea of, I've got freedom now, I'm independent, get out of my way, I'm able to stand on my own 2 feet, doesn't mean you run over the other people that are right in front of you. So your independence equips you for interdependence. And your interdependence, like when you are working with other people, forces you to live by the 1% rule. I mean, there are several times that we will fail each other. And that's in the working with each other because we're human, is okay, what can I do better? How can I serve you better? What can I do to make your life easier? That's that 1% rule. So that's Covey. So it goes from dependence, independence, interdependence, and then continual growth. That's how we're going to work through this. So the first 3 are in the dependent side. So the idea of proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first. This is for you. This is what you have to wrestle with alone. You have to wrestle with this alone. This is not about the group. Or the next section, the idea of think win-win. Well, that's 2 people. You can't win with yourself unless you have multiple personalities. And I do, so maybe that's what it is. It's win-win. And then you get seek the first to understand, then you get to synergize, and the last one is sharpen the saw. So today we're going to be talking about being proactive. How can you be proactive? So I think you need to start with the big idea for our talk today is respond, don't react. Respond, don't react. And what I mean by that is there's going to be things that happen in life that you will want to react to and you're going to need to respond to. In high school and even a little bit of college, I did music and I did sports. So in sports, coaches would always be like, okay, how do we watch film? How do we see exactly what this other team is going to do? And let's prepare for that instead of waiting till they show up and, oh my goodness, they don't run a normal soccer front with 3 guys. They run it with 6. Why are they doing that? How do we prepare for that? How do we as a defender, how do I prepare for that? Coach would always want to make sure that we were ready and understood what that would look like. Basketball the same way, music the same way. Hey, you're going to be playing this week at Union Station, downtown Indianapolis. It is a massive venue, so you're going to hear bounce. So what did our band director have us do? He had us go into the auditorium there at Bethesda and play music there because it's so vast and it had the echo. So we didn't have to react. So if I just would have walked into Union Station, got out the trumpet, and started playing, I think the first thing I had to play there was taps. I don't know why they had me do that. But the idea of is playing taps and then you hear it bouncing off the other wall, it's really unnerving. Seth, the first time up on the roof when he was talking during the jacket jump, was like, man, it was weird because you hear yourself bouncing off of 7 different buildings. And if you're not used to that, your reaction is, you stop and you don't know what to do. So we need to respond, not react. So in this, what is the difference between proactivity, the responding, and the reactive, which is the reacting? So let me explain it. Both are affected by the physical environment. So if you are proactive, being proactive, you're still affected by the physical environment. Your professor is still going to give you a quiz, even if you're proactive. But Brian, I'm being proactive. Why is my professor giving me a quiz? Because it's a part of the class. So you're both affected by these both are affected by the physical environment. Both are affected by the social environment. Why are my friends mean to me today? Guess what? That's people. Why are people doing this, this, and that? It doesn't change because you come up one day and go, you know what? I'm going to be proactive today. And then everything falls in line. No, that's not what this is. What it is the difference between being proactive and reactive. Proactive is grounded in this way. It's grounded in your values. So if you have a value of friendship and loyalty, and your friend is rude to you, your proactivity will keep you to believe the best in that friend, even when he or she is doing the wrong thing. When your pastor does something that you're like, whoa, that was kind of weird. I'm not talking about like speaking from the Quran or anything like that. But I'm just saying the idea when your pastor does something weird, you need to be proactive and like, okay, what are my values? My values is I'm committed to this church and I'm not going to church hop. All right? So no matter what happens, even if I have a disagreement with my pastor, it keeps me from jumping and going, well, what's better on the other side? It's also grounded in your convictions. When you're proactive, everything's grounded in convictions. So if something happens, I'll give you an example of this. We were watching a movie. It was probably about, oh my goodness, probably close to 30 years ago now. And I was a house parent at Joy Ranch Home for Children in Virginia, and we all went out to watch Good Will Hunting. And that just shows my age. But we all went out to watch Good Will Hunting. And at this point, I was coming out of my life of really struggling with using language, not good language, the other type of language. I'm still learning how to use the English language. But the idea is, I was coming out of that, and I had a real conviction that I was going to watch what I was hearing and what I was listening to. And all of a sudden, you get into Good Will Hunting. It's a good movie, I'm sure. But like within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, man, I think they used the F-bomb more than they've used the word and. And I'm like, I just can't be here. And there was the director, there were the other house parents, there were the other RAs that were there. I just got up and went outside and just sat outside. I wasn't trying to be offensive, but for me, I had to be proactive. It's like, I can't do that. I can't listen. I refuse to go back to that avenue. Your being proactive is about your purpose, and it's about your who and your why. Do you know who you are because you know whose you are? Think about that. You know who you are because you know whose you are, and that should be your grounding. When you're reactive, you're reacting to what? The situation. Think of chemistry. You put two chemicals together. I did this in my one chemistry lab because I only made it one semester. But did this in my chemistry lab. When you put two chemicals together, there's a reaction because they're reacting to each other. Too many times in our lives, we react to what people do instead of being proactive to what people do. Somebody is mean to me. Look out. Time to be mean back. Somebody is rude, time to be rude back. Somebody gossips, time to gossip back. We all have been there. So the idea is you're grounded by the situation. The other thing with reactive people, it's about the other person. Have you ever said, well, I'm this way because this is what happened to me? Now, we've all had hard things happen in life. You know, I grew up and I was adopted as a kid. I was adopted as a baby. My parents were at Disney when I was born, so I ruined my parents' Disney trip. But the idea of that, I struggled through high school and even some through college going, why was I given up? Why was I adopted? Why was I not wanted? And my sister went through the same things. And some of that I always like, well, I am the way that I am because I'm adopted. I don't trust people because I was adopted. That was reactive. Proactive would be like, let me find the joy in the family that I have. Let me find the joy in the understanding of what the gospel means, that we are now adopted into the family of God. We were aliens, but now we are co-heirs with Jesus, right? It's the idea of being reactive and proactive. So how can you be proactive? So let's just look at this real quick. Number one, you got to be aware. Be aware of your who and your why. I asked the summer team right before we started the summer, why are you here? Define why are you here? Because if you don't know, Ellie, Santi, why you're here, Danny, thanks for putting your head down so I didn't see you, Hannah, all these different people. If you don't understand why you're here, when you get in the throes of it and you have to clean a room after a girls' basketball camp or a boys' basketball camp, you're not going to do it with a smile. But you have to understand your who and your why. You've got to be aware of your emotions. There are times when I become reactive. It's because I'm not taking time to go, man, I'm really tired right now. I told John Wood the other day, I felt like a car that has no brakes and it's metal on metal. So like everything is like, whenever you hear your brakes go, it like drives me crazy. But the idea is like, that's how I felt the last several days. And I was being reactive because I didn't realize, man, I'm like metal on metal here. So somebody would do one thing and I'm like, and all of a sudden the lion would come out. And you're just like, what? That wasn't necessary. Because I wasn't aware of my emotions. Also, be aware of your capacity. I mean, we've all come through a busy time. You're all going to go through busy times this semester. So be aware of your capacity. Know when you need to be like, whoa, I'm really tired right now. It's really busy. And my friend is kind of teasing me right now. I need to be aware of that so I don't take that personal. And that's just a little thing. Be aware of your role. Understanding that sometimes we get ourselves into problems is we react to things and we're like, I got to make this my thing. And it's not even your role. Be aware of your role. Be aware of your limitations, right? That's not fun to say. I am limited in a lot of different ways. When it comes to technology, when it comes to the English language, when it comes to other things, I've got to rely heavily on other people because I know my limitations, and that allows me to be proactive and not reactive like, why in the world did you misspell that word again? Be aware of your gifts and abilities. So you've got to know your who and your why, your emotions, your capacity, your role, your limitations, and your gifts and your strengths. So awareness is the first thing. And then be responsible. In the book, one of the things that I love when he talks about responsibility, he uses the idea of being response-able. Because responsibility, the definition of it is the ability to respond. Wow, we're good today. The idea of that is, so when you look at responsibility, you are response-able. Meaning, unless you can look at situation and go, I am the way that I am. This was in the book. I am the way that I am because of the decisions that I have made. That's the only way that you can change. If you're like, I am the way that I am because Grant picks on me. I am the way that I am because Danny never talks to me. I am the way that I am because Maya is just ignores me. Whatever. The whole idea of that is if you're not willing to say, I am the way that I am because of my decisions, then you're never going to be able to change those decisions. So the ability to choose your response, you've got to be response-able. Be responsible with your language. Have your mom ever said, watch your language? Did your mom ever tell you that? Maybe not. She told me to say that all the time. She told me a lot of the Christian swear words, and I wasn't allowed to say them. Funniest thing that if you ever meet my mom, and it's Megan's grandma, but if you ever meet her, I used a word, like one of the words, and she's like, you might as well just use black, and she used the real word. And I'm sitting there going, what? Whatever. Watch your language. So some of how you be reactive is really easy. It's in our language. So how do we change that to proactive? And this is on page 86 of the book, and I just want to read this to you. There's nothing I can do. Reactive language. Let's look at other alternatives. That's just the way that I am. I can choose a different response. He makes me so mad, or she makes me so mad, I control my own feelings. They won't allow that. I can create something effective. I have to do that. I will choose an appropriate response. I can't. I choose. I must. I prefer. If only, I will. The idea of where I believe where we can be the most proactive, if we want to look at the 1% rule, is in the language. So something happens in the classroom today. Well, the professor, what if you looked at it? Well, the professor, yeah, that, but how can I make the most of this situation? Or something happens in the job. I wish I got more money. Okay, what am I learning in the job? I think everybody in the room would say that I wish we got more money. But you look at the experience and you're like, I'm not going to be reactive to the situation. I'm going to be proactive to the opportunity that's in front of me. That is a real hard thing to do, and I think it starts with you being aware. And number two, I think it starts with you being responsible. And in being responsible, you just know your role. You know that you watch the language that you're dealing with. You watch your language so that you can be proactive and be able to respond and not always just react. So in the next several weeks, we're going to go over the other ones. We're going to go over the other 6, but I believe everything builds upon the idea of proactivity.